Guru Vajradhara Sumatimo Nishas Uta Vardanya Shriban Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Om Guru Vajradhara Sumatimo Nishasane Kar Uta Vardanya Shriban Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumatimo Nishasane Kar Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumatimo Nishasane Kar Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumatimo Nishasane Kar Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumatimo Nishas Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumatimo Nishasane Kar Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Om Guru Vajradhara Sumatimo Nishasane Kar Uta Vardanya Shri Bhadra Varsa Manya Sarva Siddhi Hum Pakyuke kudan dagi alo, pakyuke sungdan dagi nga, pakyuke tukdan dagi yi, tenyerme chikto chingi alo, makyuke kudan dagi alo, makyuke sungdan dagi Makyuke tukdan dagi Tenyerme chikto chingi alo Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakya Shakyamuni Swaha Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Sashipuki Choshimeto Tramari Rabalingashi Nidegem Padi Sange Shinto Mikte Ulwarki Drokunanam Dashin Chö Parashoyidam Guru Ratna Mandral Kam Niryatayami Sangye Chodan Soge Chonam Lai Chancho Pardo Dani Kyapsuchi Dagi Chushe Gibe Sonam Ki drola pinchira sangye druparasho, sangye chodan tsogi chonamla, chancho pardo dani kyapsu chi, dagi chushe gibe sonam ki, drola pinchira sangye druparasho, sangye chodan tsogi chonamla, chancho pardo dani kyapsu chi, dagi chushe gibe sonam ki, drola pinchir sangye druparasho. In the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, I take refuge until enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. Nel Buddha, nel Dharma e nel Sangha prendo rifugio fino all'illuminazione. Con la pratica della generosità e delle altre perfezioni, possa io ottenere lo stato di Buddha per il beneficio di tutti gli esseri senzienti. Lai ke dan lu dan chin ke drupon dan da mi ke nam dam drowa kun ge dhanama chi tsampa tam che ke to da ge chu ten. Buongiorno, good morning. Come nei giorni precedenti farò gli insegnamenti in inglese, perciò se qualcuno avesse bisogno della traduzione simultanea ci sono le cuffiette qua. Ok? So, Rinpoche liked very much to start with so, because he would connect and also. In Tibetan, so means to regenerate. So regenerate from tiredness, regenerate from defilements, from sickness, and so on. So very often I remember Rinpoche, he would stay and he would say, so, and he would like connect with this so, no? And so. One important thing for me there was a moment many years ago. Now I am 40. I think I was around 19, something like that. Okay. And there was a moment in which I had some sort of crisis. I don't know if this is the right way to put it, but yes, I would say so. In which I had some difficulties understanding and going through some situations that were happening around me. And then what truly helped me very much was to make within myself a very clear distinction between spiritual path, religion, and religious institution. To make a clear distinction between the three. No? Understanding that the spiritual path, it's a process that we go through, that it's beyond, it transcends any form of religion. It's the inner process of growth as a person, as a human being, in which we develop our love, and we change our paradigm. It's a process through which we deal with our own fears and defilements, and it's the process of developing stability. In other words, the spiritual path is the process of developing our inner qualities and overcoming our own conflicts and defilements and so on. The religion is a set of three things, basically. It's a set of beliefs, which is of worldview, together with rules of conduct and tools for our own development, methods. Okay? So a religion is a set of these three things. We have worldview, paradigm, so it's a description of how things are, what is the reason of this, what is that. It's a whole paradigm, the part of view. In Tibetan is called tawa. There is a part which in Tibetan is called chöpa, which is basically conduct. So are what we should do, what we should avoid, the rules how to act physically, verbally, mentally, the vows that we take, and all of this is part of the rules of conduct. And then there is the third part, which in Tibetan is called gompa, which is translated often as meditation, but I like to translate it also as familiarization. And it's basically all the tools that we have. So basically, we have meditation, there is sadhanas to do, mantras to recite, prayers to recite, sacred images, debating, holy art, karma yoga. There are all sorts of things that we do in order to be able to practice the conduct, develop the view, and grow on the path. Okay? So spirituality is the inner process of developing our qualities. The spiritual path is the path of developing our qualities, overcoming our defilements. Religion is the tool that we have for that. And this tool is made of view, conduct, and tools called meditation. Okay? Then we have a third part, which is religious institution. The religious institution is where human beings organize themselves in order to be able to keep alive and to pass from generation to generation the religious belief, rules of conduct, and methods, the religion itself. So, the religious institution exists in order to serve the religion. The religion exists in order to serve the spiritual path of the individual. Okay? Sometimes we get a bit lost in the middle of this. So sometimes it happens that the religious institution becomes more important than the religion, and sometimes the religion becomes more important than the spiritual path. When this happens, it means something is wrong. We are not doing things in the right way. And sometimes in our own path, because we are not here to talk about the general view, to judge groups and to judge people, we are talking to look upon our own selves. And in our lives, it can happen sometimes that the point is not changing our worldview, the point is not following a certain rules of conduct, the point is not using certain methods, which would be the meaning of following a religion in a specific tradition. The point is being part of a group. There is a moment in which, because I am part of a certain structure, a certain group, I feel that that's enough for me. And I don't need really to practice, I don't need really to change my worldview, I don't need to change my conduct, I don't need to practice the methods. Why? Oh, because I am a part of a certain group. You know, I am a lay practitioner, I am a monk, I am a disciple of this, I am a disciple of that one, I am this, I am that. So we become part of something, which in a way it's good, but that's not a final goal. And sometimes because we are part of something, so we put labels, I am Buddhist, I am Gelupa, I am this, I am that. Because we put labels on us, we think that having that label on is enough. When this happens, it means that being part of the religion institution, it's more important than the actual religion. Okay, and this is something that we need to be careful not to happen to us. Okay. The second part is when actually we are part of an institution, yes. Institution is something that in the moment that we need to share and organize ourselves, inevitably it happens, you know. Even Lama Michel Rinpoche, that was the person that I've ever met, the most anti-institutional person that I've ever met. He was like very, not against, but he was not at all an institutional person. He was completely the opposite, very direct, personal, not institutionalizing anything. He created an institution. You know, wanting or not, that's the final result, because when we have many people together, we need to organize ourselves. It becomes a group. There is a part of making an institution, which is fine, as long as it is there to serve the Dharma. Not the Dharma to serve the institution. The other point is when we actually feel that we practice the path, we try to change our view, we try to follow well the practices, we have a certain conduct, but somewhere we follow that path, we follow the religion, how to say, not because as a tool to develop our inner qualities truly and to overcome our defilements, not as a way to serve our spiritual path, but because in our own idealized identity, because I have the label, I am a Buddhist, I must do this and I must not do that. You know? For example, sometimes it may happen that some of us, we developed this sort of identity that in order for me to be a good person, to do things in the right way and so on, I must be a good person, I must care for others. But truly, sorry to put in this way, what we mostly care is not for the well-being of others, is instead what we really care is for being the one that cares for others. There is a difference between these two. It may be subtle, but it's very big. What am I truly attracted by? Am I attracted by the happiness of others, or am I attracted by being the one that cares for others? Okay? And sometimes we may follow a religion, a specific tradition, not as a method, not as a process to develop our qualities and to grow and in this way, but we do it basically as a way to be part of that system. And in a way or in another, we end up nourishing our own selfishness. We end up nourishing our own ego. I do things in the right way, I'm doing here and there and so on. So, it is very important, I believe, for us to be able to make this clear distinction and understand that our main goal is our own inner process of development. It's our own spiritual path. That's our main objective, without any doubt. And we need to make clear this to us. Then I follow a specific tradition because every religion, every tradition have a coherence within it. The way of the view, the conduct, the methods, and they have been used for centuries and there is logic following it. And then I am part of an institution that helps me to have access to the teachings, that helps me to share this experience with people that are following a similar path, that helps to create the right conditions for me to follow my path. But all of this is in the service of our own deep spiritual path. Okay? This is something that it's very important to be very clear to us. Why am I here? What do I want? I am not here because I like being Buddhist. I may like being Buddhist. I may like calling myself Buddhist. Many years ago, being Buddhist in Europe was some sort of, rebellion, action almost, no? Okay, I am Buddhist because I am against my original religion, or I am not into the system, and this or that. Then afterwards, now in the more recent years, being Buddhist is a label that we give that is some sort of cool alternative. But there is something cool about being Buddhist, But we are not here to be Buddhist. That's not our reason. That's not our goal. That's not our objective. I'm sorry to put it this way, but religion just for religion, Buddhism just for Buddhism, without being in the service of the Dharma, of the spiritual path, of the spiritual growth of each one, I don't care. If are just beautiful words, if they are not truly in the service of our own inner development and growth, then there is no real point on it. So all the methods that we use, the symbology, the meditation techniques, the philosophy we study, the vows we take, the initiations we do, the ceremonies we do, the karma yoga, whatever we do, all of this should be clearly in the service of our own inner spiritual path, of our development of our inner qualities and overcoming our defilements in order to be able to serve and help others. It should be in the service of that. And sometimes there is this little subtle line which we can fall from one side to the other. So we need to be a bit careful. And this is described since long ago by masters such as Lama Tsongkhapa, and Papunka Rinpoche used to talk a lot about this in many of his teachings I read, in which it says, as we follow a spiritual method, we should be careful that our path do not become like a stone in water, or like the leather container of butter. Basically what happens is that when you put a stone in water, does the stone get wet or not? Yes. But you leave the stone for a very long time in water. Does the water penetrate every level of the stone? Or if you break the stone, inside is dry? Depends what type of stone, okay? But most of the stones, inside they remain dry. I just remember if we take some lavic stone, okay, it absorbs the water. It becomes all wet. But most of the stones that we find in rivers and everything, they are wet from the outside, they remain dry in the inside. Okay? This means we stay for a very long time in contact with the teachings and with the practices and everything, but we only touch the surface. We do not allow to go deep into us. The other example is the container of the leather container to where to put butter. In Tibet, people used to have butter. Tibetans use butter almost for everything. Even when a child is born, the first thing that they put on the child is butter in the head and in the mouth, which is actually very intelligent, but that's another subject. Basically, we have on the fontanella, on the crown, there is still open when the child is born. And then if cold wind goes into, the child becomes much more anxious and agitated. So the first thing they do when the child is born is to put butter on the head and in the mouth. This is to block these winds to come and for the wind humor to get stronger, so for the child not to be anxious and so on. Anyhow, this is another thing. But butter is used in Tibet for everything. It's used as cream, it's used to cook, it's used to put in the tea, it's used to make offerings, it's used for everything, butter. So Tibetans used to have butter in a container of leather. And when the leather container is new and you put butter into it, the leather absorbs the butter. Okay? But after some time that the butter is inside, the leather absorbs a certain amount of grease, of butter, that afterwards you can take all the butter out and you can put new butter in. It's not going to absorb more. It becomes completely like waterproof. So it is said that we need to be very careful that as we follow our path, we do not allow our practice of Dharma to be like a stone in water or a butter container of leather. Okay? Then Pabongka Rinpoche gives the example of how it should be. And he gives few examples. In one he says, imagine an object, a situation of which you get very sad. Someone that have died, something that have happened of which you are truly very sad. Okay? You know very well the situation. You know what have happened. You know the thing that happened that of which you are sad. Okay? But the more someone talks to you about it, the more you repeat about it, what happened to the sadness, it gets stronger or weaker? Stronger. If I come and I say, oh, you know, yes, because your father was such a nice person, and yes, oh, I'm so sad that he died, oh, and he had so much pain in the moment of that, and this and that, and I go on and on and on, putting the finger on the wound, you know. Nothing new that we didn't know before, but the more we listen about it, the stronger the sadness becomes. Or when we have an object of desire, something that we want so much. And then someone comes and starts talking to us about the object of desire and saying, oh, you know that it's so good, yes. Oh, I really want it. Oh, can you imagine it? Try to picture it in this way and in that way and this and that. And the more we talk about, there is nothing new for us. But the more we talk about it, the stronger the desire becomes. Or an object of anger. If there is someone that we don't like, a situation that we are really upset about, there is nothing new that we don't know, but the more we talk about the situation, the stronger the anger becomes. Okay? Similar to that, it would be good if every time we say, may all beings have happiness and its causes, may all beings be free from suffering and its causes, our love and compassion get stronger. Instead, what happens sometimes, just like the stone in water or the leather container for butter, we repeat the same thing so many times that at one point we are not anymore sensitive to it. It doesn't really make much effect inside of us. And there is even a Tibetan saying, which I don't know if this is used in the common sense in Tibetan community, but it's a very common way in Tibetan big monasteries, at least where I was. When something is done in a way that it's not done with awareness, when something is done without awareness in a sort of automatic way, if you want to say to someone, oh, you didn't do this with awareness, you didn't do this carefully, you didn't do this well, the way of saying is, you did this for the benefit of all sentient beings. Lega di drola pencher shiva chesha. This thing was done drola pencher. Drola pencher, it's used to say something not well done, something done without awareness. Drola pencher means for the benefit of all. Coming from the prayer, from the verse of aspiration, Sangye chedan soge chonamla jancho bardo dani kyapsuchi dagi jinso gibe sonamge drola pencher Sangye drubrasho. because it's so important to generate the correct motivation, this verse, in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge into enlightenment through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I reach the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings, is repeated so often, so often, so often, that it becomes some sort of automatic. So you can see in the beginning of any ceremony, of anything, it's very common, you see everybody start Sangye, Chodon Zoge Jonamla, Janjo Bardo Dani Gezoche, Dage Jenzo Gibe, Sonange, Rola Penje Sange Trubasho, Sange Chodon Zoge Jonamla, Janjo Bardo Dani Gezoche, what do we have today for lunch? You know, the mind goes who knows where, and there we are repeating the same verse. So because it becomes like this, and somehow making a sort of, how do you say, not making fun, but making a sort of sarcasm towards one's own self almost. It's being used, sort of parody, in which it's being said, okay, if you did something which is not with awareness, it's because you did it for the benefit of all. Okay. The point here is that, none of us here was born Buddhist. At least as long as I can imagine from what I see. Okay? We chose to follow these teachings. We choose to follow this path. Not because we have any social benefit out of it. We are not like being born in a Buddhist culture in which it's important to be Buddhist, and in which if you want to make your parents happy, you need to be a good Buddhist, or anything like that. Okay? This exists also. We are here because we see the benefit. We connect to someone that guides us on the path. And we see the benefits ourselves. So we really need to be aware to make the best use of it every moment. Because there is the danger of, after some time that we are in contact with Buddhism and teachings and so on, we create this sort of layer of protection in which we listen again and again, we recite the same verses, but it doesn't have true effect. We become like a stone in water. In the first moment we enter, we became all wet, so nice. And we have this right way effect, but then we don't allow the water to go in. We need to be more like a sponge than a stone, We need to allow gradually to absorb. But what happens is that in order for the water to go into the deeper levels, it takes much more effort for the water to go into the deeper levels than to the surface. So when we first listen to the teachings, when we first come in contact with Dharma, there is this moment of falling in love with Dharma, and it's beautiful, and it's nice, and we feel overwhelmed by it. It's wonderful. But we are just making wet the surface, which means already a lot. But then we need to be careful to allow ourselves to be touched by the Dharma in our mind, in our heart, as we go along the path, and not to enter into some sort of automatic way of practicing. Okay? So we must remain, how do you say, I don't know if it's correct to say in English, but permeabile. Permeable? Okay? We must remain permeable. It's very important. So as we say in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge into enlightenment. Through the practice of generosity and the other perfections, may I reach the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. It must touch our heart. We must feel something. It must reinforce our wish to get out of samsara. And not just be something that we recite. Something which I saw sometimes, and I'm very sorry if I am too direct, okay, is sometimes we go into this mode of we like new things. You know? So sometimes I listen to people saying, okay, Rinpoche is giving an empowerment. Oh, which initiation? Oh, but this one I already took. That's a reason why you need to do again. Sometimes we go through this thing of somehow collecting teachings and empowerments. We make the collections like children with little cards, you know, oh, this one I have, this one I don't. But we are not here to collect teachings and empowerments and to say, I did this, I didn't do that, I did this one, I did that one, I did that one, I did that one. We are not here for that. We are here to develop love, compassion, wisdom, stability, joy, satisfaction, peace. We are here to walk and grow on our path. So, that's why we need to repeat the same things again and again. So, we just need to remind ourselves, why are we here? And be careful not to fall into these danger places, because it's very easy to fall into it. And this, our great master Papunka Rinpoche, he reminded us again and again of it. Okay? So, one other thing that comes together with it is that our practice, our path, is something that there is no other choice other than actually integrating the practice on every aspect of our life. We can try to practice when we meditate in the morning and in the evening, and we do things here and there. That's wonderful. But it comes a moment in which we must apply the path on everything that we do. So, for instance, when we come to the practice of Lojong, when we come to training our mind into love and compassion, into altruism, in overcoming our own selfishness, you know, it's way beyond Olympic training in order really to do it. You know, when you take a person, an athlete that is training for the Olympics, you know, every aspect of the life of the athlete is involved. The way how the athlete eats, sleeps, where he or she goes, what they do, don't do, how many hours a day need to train, mental, physical, everything it's part of it. You know? And from what I have seen, even though I'm far away of being anything near to an athlete, it's extremely hard process, and it takes a lot of energy. So imagine, we are here putting into ourselves this training a purpose, which is, I want to change the core way of acting that since I have in my whole life doing. It takes a lot of energy. It's not something, I do some meditation sometimes. That's nice. If you like to do the meditation of Tonglen once in a while, that's okay, that's beautiful, enjoy. But this is one thing. Another thing is to follow seriously a process of training in which we say, I want to change my own way of seeing reality. I want to relate with others without this obsession of self-gratification. I must open my heart and be able to allow myself to see others. I truly want to cultivate love and compassion. I want to be a bodhisattva. That's a high priority to myself. Once we put this, we must apply the training into every moment of our lives. When we eat, when we wake up, when we wash, when we dress, when we talk, when we work, when we have fun, any moment. Okay? So, the next part of the verse, of the text, is referring exactly to that. after explaining how to train our mind in meditation through the practice of Tonglen, which we explained yesterday. I'm not going to go through it again. Okay. Now comes the next part, which is how to train in between meditation sessions. So the text says, page 41. Yulsum tuksum getsasum jegi menga dordupa tela drempa kulvechir cholam kunto tsik gijang. Concerning the three objects, three poisons, and three virtues. Actually, the translation, I would first read the translation, then we go through it again. Concerning the three objects, three poisons, and three virtues, the instructions to be followed, in short, is to be mindful of the practice in general by taking these words to heart in all activities. I will remake the translation. It's correct translation, literally, okay? But I was reading this morning the commentary, 2 different commentaries of the 7 points mind training to make sure about this line. And it's a little different the way of translating, which we would say, Yulsum tuksum getsasum. 3 objects, 3 poisons, and 3 virtues. Full stop. The essence of the instructions of the master is to be mindful, to remember, Tela Drempal Kuechir is in order to induce oneself to the memory of the path of the practice, you should train at every activity through the words. Okay? Yulsum tuksum getsasum. 3 objects, 3 poisons, and 3 virtues. Jegi menga dortupas. The instructions of the master. Je means the master. Ki means of. Menga, it's direct heart-to-heart instructions. The heart-to-heart instructions of the master in essence, dordupa, in short, in brief. Tela drempal kulvachir, in order to induce oneself. Kulva means to induce, to, how to say, encourage, but it's like to, I will look in the dictionary 1 second to find the right word. I'm not finding the right word here. Kulva. Pao sakada kashivdu kula kul. Yeah, to encourage. Okay. Okay, to urge, to encourage, to incite. So to urge ourselves, Tela Drempa Kulvechir, to have awareness in order to indulge ourselves, to encourage ourselves to the practice of the instructions that were given by the master. Train at every moment, at every situation. Cholam kunto. Ch means conduct. Lam means path. The path of conduct means when we eat, when we sleep, when we write, when we work, when we talk, whatever we are doing. These are the cholam. Cholam kunto. All conducts, all activities. In all activities, tsik ki jang. Train through the words. So use the words to train yourself. So what does this mean? Let's start from the first line. Then we go to the other 3. Yulsum tuksum getsasum. There are 3 objects, 3 poisons, and 3 virtues. Okay? So, the main point here is that we must train to act in every moment in between the meditation sessions to oppose our own selfishness, to cultivate love and compassion. Okay? Then the other part, which we will go through tomorrow, it also applies in meditation and between meditation, how to train on wisdom. Here it's how to train on love. Okay? So, we have a natural way of reacting in front of situations, which is through our own obsession with self-gratification. And we need to do opposite. We need to include others. Yesterday we talked about this. When we have a moment of pleasure, we dedicate it to others. When we have a moment of suffering, we dedicate, may through my suffering, others be free from their own suffering. Okay? So, through selfishness, we divide the world into three objects. Objects of attraction, objects of aversion, and objects of indifference. Okay? Tibetans call it Ja Nyem Parsum. Enemies, friends, and neutral. Okay? So we divide everything and everyone into three categories. In relation to the three categories, naturally, we developed three poisons. Unlimited attachment, desire, attraction, aversion, anger, hatred, okay, and indifference towards the neutral. So we have attraction towards the object, our friends, which becomes desire, attachment. We have aversion, anger, hatred, resentment, and so on, towards the object of aversion, towards so-called enemy. And towards those that are not friends or enemy, we have indifference. Just to remind ourselves, once I was reading one text regarding the 51 mental factors, and there is one mental factor which refers to ahimsa, which is the state of non-violence. Okay? And the definition that was given to the attitude of non-violence is the state of non-indifference towards the suffering of others. Okay? Which means that indifference is a form of violence. I don't know if you have ever experienced being in need and being treated with indifference from others. I had one very simple experience, which I don't need to go into details. I was in the airport in Milan. I got lost in Malpensa airport. Strangely enough, I got lost there. Okay, I had no phone, no money. I had people that were somewhere in the parking waiting for me. I didn't know in which parking they were. I had a lot of luggage with me. I could not go around through all the parkings. So I had a very simple logic. I will call home, ask someone to call them and say that we meet in this place. Simple. The only thing that was not simple is to find someone that will lend me a phone. Something so basic. Everyone has a phone nowadays, right? So I stayed for 1.5 hours in the airport of Malpensa, going around and asking people, can I make a phone call? You know? And I don't think that I look like someone that is really danger. Or I don't know, maybe I have my own identity, maybe I appear differently to people, especially when you go to ask for something. So I talk with the police, I talk with everyone. I said, look, I am in a difficult situation. I need to make a phone call because my friends are around here. I don't know where they are and this and that. It took me 1.5 hours to get someone that allowed me to make a call. And it was a very special experience. I'm very grateful to it. Because for the first time in which I felt very strongly this feeling of being in need and being treated with indifference. When I would go towards people to ask for something, people would just look straight. And then I looked, how many times do we do this with people that are in need? Imagine if I would need food instead of making a phone call. And I saw how difficult it is to ask also. It's not simple. There is shame inside of it. There is many difficult feelings that goes through when we need to go to ask, and we find on the other side this attitude of lack of trust and indifference. That's why also, this reminds me, one time one person came to ask something, like a beggar, and was saying something to Lama Ganchen, and a whole story, and Lama Ganchen go there, yes, and gave some 20 euros, whatever, to the person. And the person that was together with Rinpoche said, oh, but Rinpoche, you know, the person is lying to you. It's not true what he's saying. And Rinpoche said, it doesn't matter. The point is not if he's saying the truth. The point is that he needs. That's why I give. You know? So, indifference is quite a strong act of violence, actually. Especially the indifference towards the suffering of others. Okay? And we do have a lot of indifference in our society, on many levels. Okay? So, towards the three objects, attraction, we have desire, attachment, towards the friends, towards those things and people and situations that are good to us. Towards those that are harmful to us, we have aversion, anger, hatred, resentment, and so on. Towards those that are not good or bad, we have indifference. Okay? So 3 objects, 3 poisons. And then there are 3 virtues. The point here is that in our daily life, whenever we find ourselves in front of one of the 3 objects, and we see that we develop one of the 3 poisons, and we are aware of this, this practice requires quite a good level of self-awareness, okay? So we are aware that we see the object as a friend or enemy or neutral, and we develop attraction, desire, attachment, or aversion, and so on, or indifference. When we see this and we recognize our own mental defilement, we see our own negative behavior in this way, then as we see this, we connect with other sentient beings. And we say, wow, everyone without exception in this existence, every suffering that is manifested is coming from these defilements. Just in the same way how I am suffering caused by my own ignorance, my indifference, my anger, my attachment, my unlimited desire, my jealousy, envy, and so on, so the same are others. So when our own mental defilements manifest, we see that in the same way how we manifest our defilements and how we are taken by it, everyone else that is suffering is in the same situation. There is no difference. And every form of suffering that exists, it's created on its roots by ignorance, anger, desire, attachment, and so on. So what we are doing here is that in the moment that we feel some negative emotion, our natural way of reacting is that when we have anger or unlimited attachment or jealousy or envy, any negative emotion that appears, our natural way of reacting is that we victimize ourselves, we put the blame into someone, and our main objective that moment is to change the situation because I don't need to feel that anymore. Okay? This is how normally we react. I am angry, that situation needs to change. I feel jealous, that other situation needs to change. I feel this, I feel that. We are always thinking about the I and the my in these moments. So instead, The training here is that when our defilements manifest, and they will manifest, as long as we have them, when our own defilements manifest, we try to have the awareness to recognize it, and then we use it as a sort of mirror, is not the right word, but sort of mirror to help to see others. And you see, just as I am feeling angry, so many other sentient beings feel angry. Just as I am feeling jealous or envy, just as I have fear and anxiety, many other people and sentient beings have these emotions. And this is what is creating suffering. All the suffering of everyone is created by these defilements. Then from that, we generate a sort of aversion towards our own negative emotion. And we say, I must cut it off. I must stop reacting in this way. And not only may every sentient being be free from their anger, or from their jealousy, or from their unlimited attachment, and so on. So whenever we feel one negative emotion, we connect to that negative emotion and we see it in others. And we see how this negative emotion is generating suffering also in others. And by that, we make this strong wish, may everyone be free from this. And by not allowing myself to be driven through my own anger, by overcoming my own anger, may through my anger I overcome the anger of every sentient being. So it's similar to what we explained yesterday. I have a headache, may by eliminating my headache, I eliminate the headache of every sentient being. Similar to that, there is anger. By dealing with my own anger, may I take upon myself the anger of everyone else, and may through that I eliminate the suffering, the anger of everyone else. So here we have 3 objects, 3 poisons, and 3 virtues. The 3 virtues are basically the wish for every sentient being to be free from unlimited attachment and desire. The wish for every sentient being to be free from anger, aversion, and hatred. The wish for every sentient being to be free from ignorance and indifference and so on. Okay? So, as we are in front of the different objects, we develop the different negative emotions, but then we transform them into virtues. That's why it says, 3 objects, 3 poisons, 3 virtues. I don't know if it's clear. It's difficult. But try to imagine the sickness-wise. I have a headache, and then I connect to everyone else that have headache. May everyone be free from their headache. And I'm still taking the pill. I'm still doing whatever I do to deal with my own headache. But when I feel my own headache, I allow myself to connect with everyone else that has headaches. And it's not just anymore a personal issue. I open myself to think about others. When I feel a negative emotion and I'm able to be aware of it, I'm not only there, I and me, with my anger and my... I open and say, wow, so many sentient beings are actually driven and overwhelmed by anger. And we see the strength of anger. We see the power of destruction of anger. We see how negative it is because we feel it inside ourselves. We know in our own life. And then, based on our direct experience, we are able to see better others. And then we make this deep, profound wish, may everyone be free from anger. May everyone be free from this emotion. May no one experience what I am experiencing right now. And then I do something to deal with my own anger, and dealing with my own anger, may everyone be free from theirs. So in the moment that we have this deep, strong wish, may everyone be free from anger, this is one virtue. When I see that I am taken by unlimited attachment, and I see and I connect and I see all the suffering connected to attachment, and then I connect and I see the attachment in others, and I say, may everyone be free from their attachment. Also myself. But may everyone be free from attachment. That is another virtue. When I see my own indifference, when I ignore the suffering of others, when I ignore others and I see my own indifference, then I see how this is not only in myself but in so many other people and sentient beings. Then I wish, may everyone be free from their ignorance, from their indifference. And this is the third virtue. Okay? And what is really special about this technique is because it allows us to transform our moment of anger on the path to enlightenment. Because when I feel a negative emotion, if I am able not to remain blocked within myself, but I have awareness, and then I see others also have the same emotion, and in the same way that is harmful to me is also harmful to others. May everyone be free from it. But here there is one part which needs, before we are able to truly to do this, and it requires a certain level of maturity. Before we can do this practice, we need first to recognize, to have self-awareness of our negative emotion, and to recognize that our negative emotion is actually generating our own suffering. So to do that, we must stop victimizing ourselves. Which is, yes, this happened, that happened, and the other thing happened. I'm not saying that it didn't happen. I'm saying that my anger harms me, my attachment harms me, my desire, unlimited desire, my jealousy, my envy, my fear, my anxiety, my arrogance harms me and just make the whole thing worse. It's not a matter of saying, oh, nothing happened, it's just me being, hysteric. Oh, it's just me being hysteric. Actually, nothing is happening. I'm not saying that. I'm not entering into the judgment of what happened. I'm just entering into the aspect that if I react with anger, with jealousy, with fear, with miserliness, and so on, I make the whole situation worse. So, I have no control of what other people do. I have no control of what happens around me. But I have control, if I train myself, in the way how I relate to the situations. And we start here by having this awareness in which we say, to react to any situation with aggression, with anger, with jealousy, with envy, with arrogance, with anxiety, with unlimited attachment, with unlimited desire, with insatisfaction, and so on, will harm me a lot. That's where mainly my suffering comes from. So once we have this awareness, still our defilements will appear. But when they appear, and we're able to have self-awareness, then we can look and say, wow, I don't want to be completely driven and taken by this emotion, but I want everyone else to be free from it also, because in the same way that I see how it harms me, it harms everyone else also. Okay? So here I just take the opportunity to add one part, which somehow, actually, it's not part of this training, it's part of a previous training. It's part of the training which regards the preliminaries. But because most of us, sorry to put in this way, we reach in this point having not completed the preliminaries, we need to go back to that training again and again. Okay? So, when we are in front of the three objects, and consequently the three poisons, which manifest into many others, what do we do? Okay? What I'm going to explain now is explained actually later into the advices, into the precepts of mind training. It comes after, but I will just apply. I think in this context it's good to explain. So, are called the three levels of difficulty that we need to apply. First step, self-awareness. First step is I'm able to see my own process happening as it unfolds. So I see that I'm getting angry, I see that I'm feeling jealous, I see that I'm getting attached, I see my own inner emotions and my own inner process unfolding. On the first step of training, I see my emotions, but I am not able to do absolutely anything about it. And I've met people that they were very frustrated when they get to this level. Because they say, better when I was not Buddhist. Better before I would do things and would get angry and I still was sure that I was right. Now not only I get angry, but then I feel bad that I got angry because I shouldn't get angry, So, and then there is the frustration that I see my dynamics, I'm not able to change it. So we have, the first level is when we have self-awareness, and that's already a very good step. I see my own dynamics, I see the negative emotion manifesting, but I am not able to do anything about it. I see that I am about to lie, and I know that I shouldn't lie, but I still lie. I see that I am about to drink the water that I'm not supposed to drink because it's harmful to me, but I still drink it. And while I'm enjoying, there is a part of me saying, no, you shouldn't do it, but I'm still drinking it. I know that I'm not supposed to do it in a way, but I still do it. Okay? This is the first difficulty, to have self-awareness. And that's the first step in which we should train ourselves. Second step. These are all part of one first step, okay? We divide 3 steps, and from the 3 steps, the first is divided into 3. Okay? So we are into the first step. First of the first, self-awareness. Second of the first, I see the negative emotion appearing, manifesting. I feel it coming. I don't block it. And I don't nourish it. I don't follow it. Okay? And here there are again 3 steps. I start by not nourishing that negative emotion physically. So I feel the anger coming, I feel the attachment coming, I feel the jealousy or whatever, and I do not act physically out of that emotion. I'm able to see it coming, but I do not transform that emotion into a choice, into a physical action. Okay? I don't act out of that emotion. I allow it to pass. Okay? When we are in this step, it's important to remind ourselves that that emotion is impermanent. It comes and it goes. There was never anyone that got angry and remained angry forever. I'm sure each one of us, we went through very strong emotions. But sooner or later, what happens to that emotion? It fades away, or not. So, when it comes, we have the self-awareness that we observe ourselves. And it's like if we make one step backwards from ourselves and we just observe the emotion coming and allowing it to go. So the first level, we are able not to follow that emotion physically. We don't take actions out of that emotion. Second level, we do not follow that emotion verbally. We do not speak out of it. Third, we do not follow or nourish that emotion mentally, which means we see the negative emotions such as anger or jealousy coming, but we do not enter into an inner dialogue with that emotion. Because, yes, I know that I shouldn't get angry. Oh, but look what have happened. This is like this. How couldn't I not get angry seeing the circumstances of what is happening? This person is really not behaving well. Oh, because of this. Oh, because of that. We go into a whole dialogue of justification. Okay? The more we listen to that emotion, the more we are nourishing it, the more it becomes stronger. So when we act physically, we nourish it even more. When we act verbally, we still nourish a lot. When we act mentally, we still nourish it. So the step here is, I see the emotion coming. I don't block it, because otherwise it will get worse. And I don't follow it. I just observe it. And I remain still. I don't act physically. I don't speak verbally. And I do not enter into a mental inner dialogue with that emotion. I just say to myself, it will pass. It will pass. And I can take refuge by reciting a mantra, by observing my own breath. I put my attention into something to which I can hold. And then I just allow that emotion to pass. Imagine like a big tree. And then suddenly comes a very strong wind. If the tree tries to block the wind, the tree will be destroyed, will fall. If the tree follows the wind, it will lose all its leaves. It will be completely taken away. Instead, what's the quality of the tree? It has strong, deep roots and flexible trunk and branches. So the tree would move, allowing the wind to pass. And after it will come back to its own stable position. So when we feel the strong wind of our anger or jealousy or attachment coming, we allow it to pass without being attached to that emotion. And in order to do that, we must not enter into a dialogue. We must not justify that emotion. Okay? So the second step is I don't block and I don't follow. Physically, verbally, mentally. This is called the second difficulty. The third level of the training is to give continuity to the second. Because when we are doing the second level of the training, we will see our emotion coming, we have self-awareness, we don't block it, we don't follow, but after some time we relax a little bit, and when we see, boom, we follow it. Okay? That's normal. When we are not able to hold this for long, it means we are on the second level. The more I am able not to block and not to follow, to step backwards, take refuge, and just allow it to pass. Do not identify oneself with that emotion. Just let it pass. It isn't permanent. It will go through. When we are able to remain in this position until the emotion is completely gone and we go back to our stable state, that's when we completed the third level of training. Okay. Then, this is the first level, in which we do not nourish and follow our negative emotions. The second level is when we see that the emotions are appearing, we have self-awareness, we know how not to follow them, but when we see that that negative emotion is starting to come, we put our energy into an antidote. into an opposite state of mind. So which means I am developing anger, I put my mind into compassion, I put my mind into acceptance, I put my mind into an opposite state of mind that will not allow that emotion to grow even more. Okay? So I apply the antidote. And this is something that it only happens through a lot of training. We need to train ourselves into the antidote, so when we see that process coming, we know how to apply a different attitude. Okay? I'm not entering into details on this right now. We need to train on this basically in one way, two ways. One way is into actual daily activities, which means when we see that our negative emotions such as anger is coming, then we can anger has different forms of manifestation. So according to the situation, then we can apply compassion, we can apply awareness, we can apply acceptance, we can apply different attitudes to help not to allow that emotion to grow. But to do this, we need also to meditate upon it. And briefly, to do this training, what we do is the following. We sit down, we breathe, we bring our mind to a state of calm, initially by doing mainly breathing meditation. Then when we are in a more stable state, we first do an analytical meditation. Okay? Analytical meditation is basically when we imagine the processes in order to reach a certain conclusion. So let's take the example of anger or the example of jealousy. There can be many other possibilities. So I will first go through a whole process as if I need to convince someone else that it doesn't matter what happens, there is no reason why to get angry. I will enumerate the faults of anger. I will remind myself of all the harm that anger brings physically, mentally, emotionally, socially, all the different faults of anger. I will enumerate to myself the benefits of being patient, of not reacting with aggression in front of difficult situations, the benefits of acceptance, of love, of the opposite of anger. Until I get to the very clear conclusion, it's still logical, huh? That it doesn't matter what happens, it's not a valid reason to react with anger. Once I reach that conclusion, okay, I take that mind of the conclusion and I put it a little bit aside. No? Imagine you are in a room and you hide that mind behind the curtain. It's on the corner. Then you breathe in, out again, bring once again the mind to the present moment, and then imagine a situation in which normally you would get angry. But allow yourself to imagine that situation clearly. Allow yourself to go through the situation. It can be something that have happened in the past, or it can be something that you just imagine hypothetically. And then you allow that feeling of anger to start to manifest. And when it starts to come and manifest, that's when you apply the logic of before. And you come into yourself and say, but what are you doing? There is no reason why to be angry. It doesn't matter what happens. Then you apply the antidote. Then you apply acceptance. You apply the logic of the correct view of reality, of interdependence. You apply compassion, whatever fits better in that moment, until you are able to be in front of the object without feeling anymore that anger. All in visualization. And when you are able to do that, you remain in that state for some time. If you do this practice correctly, most probably in the first times you will end up the meditation angry. If you are doing it correctly. Okay? Then slowly you are able to train yourself to act differently. Because remember, for our mind, what we actually physically do and experience and what we imagine has almost no difference. And when we are in front of a situation, what speaks loudly is not our knowledge, but our experience. So when we imagine in meditation that we are going through a certain situation and we allow the anger to manifest and then we apply the antidote and we react differently, we are generating a new experience. And when we will be in front of this situation physically at one point, we have the memory of this experience. And this makes a big difference. So the first level of training is I don't block, I don't follow. Second level is I apply the antidote. I train myself in the antidote. Okay? So I familiarize myself with love, with compassion, with patience, with generosity, with humility, and so on. But there is one very important thing, is that there is a big difference of generating patience without being angry and generating patience as an antidote towards anger. It's very different, the process. So basically what we are doing here is allowing the poison to manifest in order to apply the antidote. And when we train in this way, it's much more difficult but much more powerful. And this is the second level. Okay? The third level, which is more difficult, way more difficult, but we just explain it briefly, is that in which we are able to recognize the nature of our defilement, such as anger or desire, and we recognize the energy aspect of it, the energetic aspect of it. So, for example, what is anger? Anger is the aversion towards the object of suffering, towards whatever we believe that is making us suffer. So we project our suffering into this, and that, and so we want this, and that to go away, not to happen anymore, to be away, to be destroyed, to be eliminated. It doesn't matter what happened, I don't want that. Okay, so anger basically is we have the energy of destruction, okay, towards what we see as the reason of our suffering, as our objects of suffering. Okay? It's clear, no? So, what is attachment, desire? Attraction towards that in which we project as the causes of our happiness. Okay. So once we feel anger, we see that anger is actually projecting to eliminate that which I recognize as the cause of suffering. But we also recognize there is a very strong energetic component there. So what I do not block anger. I do not go against the anger. I recognize its potential, its energy, and I redirect it. I direct that energy not against the person doing this, and that, but against the actual causes of suffering, such as my own ignorance, my own selfishness. Okay, that's, for example, part of the symbology of Yamantaka. This is part of Vajrayana, of Tantra, what I'm explaining now. Okay? So there is the wrathful energy, the energy of destruction, the energy of opposition, which is directed against that which are the true causes of our suffering, such as our selfishness and our ignorance and our unlimited attachment. We take the energy of desire, and instead of blocking desire and wanting to disconnect from the energy of desire, the more desire, the better. But I redirect it. I recognize its energy, and I direct that energy in order to be attracted to what truly brings happiness and well-being, such as inner stability, satisfaction, love, compassion, wisdom. Okay? So, this is the third level.
But one important thing, we cannot practice the third if we have not trained ourselves quite well on the second, and we cannot practice the second if we have not trained ourselves well enough on the first. Okay? And if we would make some sort of label of these 3 levels, it's not truly precise, but somehow it helps us to understand. The first level of practicing is mostly Hinayana way. The second level of practice is mostly Mahayana. The third level of practice is mostly Vajrayana. Okay? But we cannot practice the transforming the energy if we don't know how to apply the antidote. We cannot apply the antidote if we are not able not to follow that negative emotion. Okay? And then I just take the opportunity to say one step before the first. There is one step to practice before the first step. That is, I see that in certain situations I get angry. I recognize that anger is harmful to myself. I don't want to get angry, but I'm not able not to block it and not to follow it. When I am in that situation, I'm simply overwhelmed by it and I cannot act different. I'm not able to do it. Okay? The same thing with jealousy, with attachment, whatever. I like so much water, even though I know that the water is harmful to me. When I am in front of water, I drink it. And I know it and I see it, but I'm not able not to do it. So when we are in this state, before we practice not blocking and not following, the first step is move away from the object. Okay? Because we need to recognize our own weaknesses. And if I know that to drink water is harmful, but I like it so much, and I'm not able to be in front of water and not drink it. I'm simply not able yet because the attachment is so strong, the habit is so strong, I'm not able to do it. So in this case, what I do, I don't go where there is water, I don't look to water, I put myself away from water. Not as a final training, but as a preparation. When I am a little bit more far away from water, then I will train myself to imagine myself in front of water and not drinking it. And I need to move on with the training. If I only put myself away from the object, what will happen is that whenever I am then again in front of the object, or I will destroy it, or I will completely go for it. Okay? So, it's just, for example, in Thailand and in many other southern Eastern Buddhist countries, there is, for example, the vow and the tradition within monastic community of monks not touching women. And I saw many times Westerners going to these countries and remaining bad, like, oh, why do you think women are impure? Why women cannot be touched? Women are not impure, or this or that. And actually it has absolutely nothing to do with women being pure or impure. It has to do with the weakness of men, not with the purity of or impurity of women. It has to do basically, I am not able to deal with my own attachment and desire, so I put myself away from the object of desire. The problem is not the woman, the problem is the unlimited attachment and desire. Okay? Then there was one movie which was called Samsara, talking about one monk that was many years meditating and so on. Okay. Personally, I don't think it's a very good movie, but that's a personal judgment. I didn't like it. Anyhow. The movie shows this man that is in long time meditating for 3 years, and then they come to open the cave where he was meditating, and looks like instead of meditating, he was smoking marijuana and who knows what for 3 years, because he's completely stoned. No? He's like not understanding anything. Actually, if you meditate correctly, your mind is much, much, much more clear than someone that is not meditating. Okay, so this is the first thing that this movie shows wrong. Second, after 3 years meditating, he goes to the monastery and he does the ceremony, and he's 3 years by himself in the cave. The first woman that he sees, he gets crazy. And he literally jumps on her. You know? So, this is somehow showing how things are not supposed to be. Okay? How the practice is not supposed to be. So what happens is that when we see that a certain situation we are not able to deal with it, anger, attachment, jealousy, envy, sadness, whatever, the first step is make some distance. But with the awareness that is not to blame the object, is I need to have more stability, I need to have less attachment, I need to deal with my anger, because my objective is to be in front of the situation and not enter into that dynamic. So, yes, we make distance from the object, but that's just a momentary step, which sometimes it's really necessary. But it's not the final objective. Okay? This is just to say, each one we look at our own selves. If there is a situation in which we are not able right now to be in the situation without such strong negative emotions, we make distance from the situation. But in the meantime, we recognize our own negative emotion and we act in order to have more self-awareness, to apply an antidote. We need to work on that direction and to stop victimizing oneself. Okay. This training, it's part of the preliminaries. It's part in which we recognize our own defilements as the cause of our own suffering. Okay? So, theoretically, when we are at this part of the training ourselves in love and compassion, we are already able not to follow our negative emotions. We have already completed that part of training. So what we do here is that when we see that our negative emotions manifest, we don't block it, we don't follow it, but instead we connect to other sentient beings, because say, oh, you see how much attachment I have, so many other sentient beings are suffering because of that. May everyone be free from it. And I cut it. Poof. I cut my own attachment, I cut my own anger, I cut my own jealousy, not only as mine, but as something that harms everyone. So I use my own negative emotions as something to connect myself with others and to open my heart towards others. Okay. So here it says 3 objects, 3 poisons, and 3 virtues. I think it's quite clear, right? Okay. I know that it's a lot in a short time. Okay? But then after you have time to listen to it again, to elaborate it, and gradually to put it into practice. Because according to some emotions, we are before this first level. Others we may be able to practice, so we need to adapt our practice according to the different things. Maybe some of us have less issues with attachment and have more issues with anger. Others have more difficulties with jealousy or with indifference. We need to see which is the stronger emotion, negative emotion that we have that we need to deal with. Okay? Then on the last 2 days we will go back to this subject because it's part of the vows of the Lojong mind training. Okay? We go again through it. So the verse continues. Yulsum tuksum getsasum. 3 objects, 3 poisons, 3 virtues. Jegi menga durdepa tela jempal kuwechir chulam kundu tsigi jangs. This next part, it's separated from the first verse. That's why the way how it's translated, I think it could be a little bit different. So we say, there are 3 objects, 3 poisons, and 3 virtues. Full stop. The instructions to be followed, in short, is to be mindful of the practice in general by taking these words to heart in all activities. Okay, basically the meaning here is, I'm just looking at translation. I have always difficulties with translation. Tibetan is a language that it has many different ways of translating the same word. Even when you go in the dictionary and you look one word, there are at least 15 different translations for the same words, depending on the context. So it's not so obvious to translate, actually. And what happens often is that translations becomes the version of the translator. You know, I saw many translators that they would add words to try to make the meaning clear to those that would read, but actually they are making an interpretation instead of a translation. Okay? And sometimes I saw people, but if I translate literally, it's not easy to understand, but also in Tibetan it's not easy to understand. So I am very much for literal translations. Then we can add commentaries to it. But the translation must be as literal as possible. This is my own way of seeing. Anyhow, the meaning here of the training is, in essence, to follow the training and to keep it in mind and to induce ourselves into the training. Okay, because Jegimenga Durdu Path, in essence, the essence of the instructions of the Master is that in order to induce ourselves to the practice, to the training, we should train by the means of the words in every situation that we find ourselves, in every activity. So this means we learn the words, we train ourselves by memorizing the verses. Okay? Here, for example, the 8 verses of mind training are very powerful. We have the jewel garland of the Bodhisattva. There are many verses that we can learn. So what happens is that the words direct the thoughts. In Tibetan it says, the old person of the meaning needs the walking stick of the words to hold up. So the old meaning needs this walking stick of the words. So which means when we say something, we direct our mind. We remind ourselves of how to do. So for example, there is one verse here which I like very much. Yesterday I was looking for it, so I found it this morning. It's from one master called Geshe Penchen Shakya Shri. And Geshe Penchen said, Kina dewa tsoksungo pende namka kamarsho, dona kungi dungal kur dunge gyatso kembarsho. I will try to make a simple quick translation. If happy, kina, dewa tsoksungo, I dedicate my joy to all. Dewa tsoksungo, pende namka kamarsho, may the whole vastity of space be filled up with joy and well-being. So when happy, I dedicate my happiness to all. May the whole vastity, may the whole expanses of space be filled up with joy and happiness and well-being. Dugna, when in suffering, kungi dungal kur, I take upon myself the suffering of all. Dunga gyatso kembarsho, may the ocean of suffering dry out. Okay? So when we learn these words and we repeat them daily, we train them in our words. For example, I remember when I saw Lama Michel Rinpoche, I remember clearly 2 occasions where he went through strong physical pain. Okay? One time was actually, I was the one to blame. We were here in the center, there was a ceremony. He arrived by car, and then he was getting out of the car slow. I was there helping him. I closed the door, but his hand was still in between. And he had some difficulties, Rinpoche, on his joints, so it was quite painful, no? And I saw Rinpoche was in pain. And then what happened? He said, shut up. Don't make anyone understand that I am in pain, because it was an important moment. He didn't want to make people worry. But then I was walking with him on the way to come, and through the path from where is the center to the temple, he was all the way reciting silently in low voice the verse which says, I take upon myself the suffering of others. May all the ocean of suffering be dried away. I give to others my joy and happiness. May happiness be everywhere. He was doing Tonglen, basically. You know? So, but he was doing it by repeating the verse again and again, again and again. He was repeating the same line again and again as a way to direct the mind in Tonglen. Another time, Rinpoche, he was here and he bought in Austria. He went to see Trisha Rinpoche in Austria, and coming back, he bought some marble statues, which are in front of the center. There is some lion, white marble lions, and there is some white marble dolphins that we can see. And he liked it so much, these statues. So they needed to take the dolphin statue out of the box and put somewhere. And I was not present, I just saw afterwards, and there was some sort of machine to do like this in order to take up the statue, and it was connected with some very strong, this elastic with the hook in the end, the beginning. And then Rinpoche wanted to do it himself. So he said, oh, no, I do. And then he was doing it, and as he was doing it, the metal with the elastic, it came out, the hook. It went around and it came to his face. And it made a quite big cut just under his eyes. So actually I saw Rinpoche when he was already walking through with all the blood and to clean and so on. And there again, Rinpoche was reciting the same verses. Okay? So I saw this very few times with Rinpoche, but this is what is being said here. When we are in a particular moment, in order to direct the mind, we recite the words. We use the words in order to direct the mind. So Rinpoche in these two occasions was practicing Tonglen, taking and giving, using one's own pain in order to connect to other sentient beings and take the suffering of others upon oneself. Okay? But in order to direct the mind, we use the words. So in this precious booklet that we have, for example, one very precious text that can help us with this is the Jewel Garland of the Bodhisattva. Okay? So I just open it, I just take one line by chance. Number 3. Proclaim your own failings, but do not look for faults in others. Hide any good qualities you may have while declaring others' virtues. Okay? At one moment we see that we are like they're trying to make ourselves special and wanting recognition. Then we recite the verse. Proclaim your own falling, but do not look for faults into others. Hide your good qualities while declaring the virtues of others. By reciting the verse, I direct my mind. Okay? So there are many ways, many lines that we can train. So my advice is read these different texts, memorize the words that you think that can really help you, that you connect to direct yourself. The 8 verses of mind training are very powerful for that also, okay? For me, it's one of my favorite is also the 8 verses of mind training. Actually, in this booklet, I put my favorite texts inside. No? So we learn the words, and as we go along in our daily life, whenever there are certain situations, we apply the antidote by reciting the words that direct our mind. Okay? So my advice into that is read different texts, such as the Jewel Garland of the Bodhisattva, the 8 verses of mind training, there is the Bodhisattva Charyavatara, there are verses from the Guru Puja. We can find verses in so many special texts. Doesn't it even need to be necessarily Buddhist text. It can be even any other form of text, okay? Advices. Then we learn the words that direct our mind to what is virtuous. We memorize that verses. So when we are in our daily life in a certain situation, we recite the verse and redirect the mind. So in essence, use the verses, the words of the holy texts, to redirect your mind in every situation that you may find yourself. Okay? And then I like just to add some other aspect, which is here says Chulam Kuntu, in every activity. So for example, we have some daily activities such as waking up, such as washing ourselves, such as going to the bathroom, such as dressing up, eating. These are all activities that hopefully we do every day. Okay? So, how can we train ourselves in these activities? It's just a matter of using these activities to direct our mind in a non-selfish way, to cultivate love and wisdom. Okay? So, just making one example, which we will talk more about tomorrow, but for example, me, I wear glasses. Okay? So, what are these glasses reminding me of? No? Every morning, one of the first things I do is I put my glasses on. Okay? So, it can be something very basic. It can mean nothing. I'm just putting my glasses on. Or, I can remind myself that I need to perceive reality through the correct view of reality. The glasses is like the wisdom that allows me to see reality clear, reminding myself that nothing exists in an autonomous, independent way. Everything is interdependent. So I must see reality through the lenses of wisdom. So as I put the glasses, I remind myself of that. As I go to wash, as I'm starting the day and I am washing my face or brushing my teeth or having a shower, I try to remind myself, okay, what are the emotions that I don't want to carry with me today? What are the thoughts, what are the energy that I don't want to carry with me? So this, I leave it away. And as I wash myself, I can imagine this pure water coming and taking away the tension, taking away the anger. I imagine all my negativities going out. And then I prepare myself for the day. So as I go to dress myself, normally after having a shower or washing, we dress up. So when we dress ourselves, we are not just putting clothes on, because we cannot walk naked. We could if you wanted, you just have consequences, that's all. But normally we don't, right? So as we dress ourselves, it's not just a matter of dressing. It's a matter of preparing ourselves for the day. Okay? So we give meaning to the clothes. So I am dressing myself with patience, with generosity, with self-awareness. According to the moment in which we are, we can wear different colors to remind us of the different qualities that we want to cultivate during that day. We can connect it like to the practice of self-healing, like blue for stability and compassion, green for courage and rejoicing, yellow for humility and generosity, red for concentration and satisfaction, white for wisdom, for example. Okay? We can give particular meaning to jewels, particular meaning to objects that we use. For example, if we have taken certain commitments in our life. Let's say we make a commitment not to criticize others. So we connect our commitment with a particular object. So when we dress in the morning and we put that object in ourselves, okay, this reminds me of my commitment. Okay? So we give meaning to our clothes. And then we can even go more and we can say, okay, I dress myself beautifully. I make myself to look more beautiful as a way to offer to others. May those that will see me enjoy my appearance. Not because I want others to see me beautiful, but because I want to offer something nice to them. So basically, when we prepare ourselves in the morning, we prepare the motivation. We see, okay, I'm going to adorn myself with patience, with compassion, with kindness, with stability. We choose 1, 2 things and we focus on that. Okay? Then, for instance, we put our shoes on. Okay? Most of us, we wear shoes made of leather, very often. Then we can, for example, connect with the animal that gave its life for us to be able to wear our shoes. And we dedicate, wherever I may go, may I act virtually. May I act in accordance with the Dharma, and any virtue which I accumulate today, I dedicate for this animal. So we make a connection with that animal that lost its life and that we are wearing the shoe, for example. Okay? We can make so many connections in our day. Okay? And then at some point we eat. Then when we eat, there is one specific practice which I like very, very much, which Rinpoche taught a few times, in which we do the following. First of all, we are in front of our plate of food. No, it can be a drink, it can be our breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack, whatever. And then, first thing that we do the purification of the food. So we do Om Ahum or Eyam Ram Lam Bam, and then we do the visualization of purification, and basically we imagine, we can do it very extensively or very simple. I'm not entering now into many details, but we imagine that the food receive all the blessings of body, speech, and mind of all holy beings. Then the Om Ahum dissolves into the food. The food becomes completely pure without any sort of impurities that may generate sickness or anything like that. We transform the food. Then after that, before eating, we focus in our heart. There is Guru Buddha, like Buddha Shakyamuni, like our own Guru, like Tara, like in any holy aspect, we visualize in our heart. Then we eat. As we eat, we focus on the winds going in to our central channel, our digestive fire growing. As the digestive fire grows, it burns the food, it digests the food. It offers, by this I offer the food, the good part of the food, I offer it to Guru Buddha in my heart. Guru Buddha experiences a sensation of bliss, and as a consequence, I also experience bliss. Then the remaining I offer to all the microorganisms that are living in my body. So I focus on these billions and billions of beings that are living within myself, and I make an offering to them. All the bacteria that are there, I nourish them through the food that I have just eaten. And I offer the food towards them. And then I dedicate, may through the merits that I generate here, by making such offerings, by making such act of generosity, and may through the connection that I create with these beings, because they nourish my life, I nourish their life. We create a special connection. May, whenever I reach the state of Buddhahood, may I be able to guide each and every one of them to the state of enlightenment. And then, this becomes the act of giving the Dharma. We are not giving yet, but we are giving in the future. It's a sort of taking the benefits of the future to the present. But we connect to all these beings living in our body, and then we imagine that all of them become satisfied, and they feel nourished and happy, and this brings our body to be strong and healthy, and our mind to be peaceful. Okay? I'm still looking for some, Rinpoche used to recite some verses which gave this whole visualization and meaning. I'm still looking for them. I cannot find these verses. But I will find them, and then after we make a small booklet for everyone with it. But when we eat, we can connect with others. And then we dedicate, may through the food that I'm eating, I am grateful to everyone which allows me to have this food, to all the beings connected to it. And may through the energy that I gain by eating this food, may I practice correctly the Dharma, may I develop my own path to enlightenment, and may I help others. And I dedicate the merits which I gain by using the energy that I get from this food to all those that allowed me to have this food. All forms of life connected to it. Okay. So basically what we are doing is many things, but one of them is when we eat, we take the opportunity to connect ourselves with others and develop love and compassion. And to practice generosity. And we don't eat as a selfish act. Why I eat? Because I nourish my body, and by having my body strong, I can actually act, I can practice, I can be of benefit for others, I can walk on my path. So I am offering to others that, instead of just eating because I like to eat something tasteful and I feel hungry. So we try to invert these attitudes. Okay? And like this, we apply to every action of our daily life. So we try in every situation that we go through, in everything, to connect with love and compassion towards others and with the correct view of reality. These two, we try to apply it in every type of situation. And we find very nice ways how to do it. Okay? And in many spiritual traditions this happens. What happens is that sometimes these methods, they become sorts of traditions that must be repeated. No? So for example, if you go to the Orthodox Jewish, there is a prayer almost for everything. Which in a way it's very beautiful and it's very special because it's a way of connecting to one's own spiritual path in every action that you do. Okay? On another way, we need to be careful not to allow it just to be something that I must do. And then we forget the meaning. It becomes like the stone, the wet stone. Okay? So we need actually to connect. So what I want to say is that in between meditation sessions, we need to see what are our daily activities that we do every day. And how can I use it? You know? It's something that may not be so, polite to speak about. But for example, one thing that I did for a long time I like doing is when I go in the morning, one of the first things I do is I go to the bathroom. Okay? And then you can concentrate with the difficult emotions that you generated in this previous day, all whatever negative energy that was there, and you imagine that it goes away. Whatever you don't want to keep with yourself, you let it go without being attached to it. And then you are again connecting with what are the emotions that you don't want, and instead what do you want to cultivate. And we can use this when we wash ourselves, when we eat, in every moment, okay? I am nourishing myself of what? Of food, but not only. When we dress up, I'm not just putting clothes. I am dressing up myself with the qualities I want to cultivate today. Okay? So we connect our daily actions with our spiritual path. This is also very, very important for us to do. When we go to work, okay, depending on the work that we do. But let's take the example of the most mundane, boring work. Maybe you are just in a factory and you just need to repeat the same action again and again the whole day. Okay? How can I transform that into the path to enlightenment? Through this work, first I can train patience, I can train concentration, I can train many qualities that I need to develop on my path. This is one aspect. How I do my work, how I relate to others. Second, through this work, I can gain my livelihood. By having my livelihood, it allows me to use my energy on my own practice of Dharma. So I'm grateful for that, and I'm doing this in order to be able to have the necessary material needs for my own life and survival, so that I can dedicate my life for Dharma in order to develop my qualities for the benefit of others. Okay? We can connect everything. It's possible to transform. But the important thing is that in every action that we do, we keep connected with the path, with our objective. What do I really want? I want to transform my own self. I want to develop my own qualities. And I must use every circumstance as an opportunity for that. Okay? And one of the ways of doing that is through the words, is through the verses. So we learn the verses, we train into the verses, and we recite them in our daily life. And there may be a period in our life which one verse will accompany us more, and then another period which another verse will accompany us more. But we need to use it in our daily life as that. So, as Geshe Chekawa said, there are 3 objects, 3 poisons, and 3 virtues. The instructions to be followed, in short, is to be mindful of the practice in general by taking the words to heart in all activities. Okay. So with this we conclude the part of training in the general bodhicitta, which is we're not concluding the training, we are concluding just the explanation, a brief explanation of the training. I thought we had many days, but finally are not so many. I was making my own calculations, how many days we have and what we still need to go through, and I was looking and saying, actually, I need to move a little bit forward. Otherwise, we will need to go in a hurry in the last part. And actually, it happens quite often that I take too much time into other things, then when we get to the last part, need to hurry up. But the last part is very important and very beautiful, so I don't want to reach there in a hurry. Okay, so we move forward. But just to say that this is a life experience. It's not something that we can just learn in a few days and then it's done. It's something that takes one whole lifetime to train and to repeat and to find. And it's something that looks like we have understood, then maybe after many years as we practice, we go again through it and then we understand it in a different way and more deep way. Okay? So I'm very happy to share here with you, and we are not going superficial, but we are not also going completely deep. We are in a middle way. Okay? And then each one of us, we need to read again and again, meditate, put it into practice, read the commentaries, and slowly, slowly we go more and more deep into it. But the main point which I want to bring, just to conclude, is please, don't see the Lojong mind training just as something that we learn, but see as a powerful tool to be used at every moment of our life. Okay? This is one of the most important keys. Okay? It's just like one time someone, I don't remember the name, went to Atisha and said, "Oh, Master, I'm going to do many circumambulations. Is this good as a practice?" And Atisha answered, "That's nice, but better to practice the Dharma." Then the person said, "Oh, Master, so I am going to do many recitation of mantras." And then he said, "That's nice, but better to practice the Dharma." "Oh, Master, then I will make many offerings and this and that." And then he said, "That's good, but better to practice the Dharma." You know? And then this person got, "But then what shall I do?" You know? And then he said, "Change your mind." You know? Train yourself to change your mind. Cultivate faith, cultivate love, cultivate gratitude, cultivate wisdom. That's when we practice the Dharma. The other things are methods to help us to practice the Dharma. Okay? And it's something that we need to have applied to our life in every aspect. One of the things that I most like about Atisha is Atisha in his text that we can read nowadays. I have this very strong feeling Atisha was very much down to earth. And he would just bring things into a very simple way, but very practical. You know? So I think this is something that we need a lot. It's very valuable for all of us. So please remind yourself of the path. Remind yourself, why are we here? Here, not, I don't mean Albagnano also, but Why are we on this path? Why do we get in touch with Dharma teachings? Why do we meditate? Why do we do all this what we do? In service of our spiritual path. You know? I don't feel attracted to the idea of being a religious person just for being a religious person. You know? I feel strongly attracted to the idea to dedicate myself to my own spiritual path and to help and to support others into theirs. That's my main point. And I found one method, which is my own tradition within Buddhism, which for me it's extremely valid. So I follow it. But it's in the service of our own path. And we should do the same in our lives. Okay? So make sure that we are not like a stone in water, but we become more like a sponge. And slowly we always absorb the Dharma into ourselves. Okay? Doesn't matter how much time passes. Jetsu lame kutse rapten chi nam karatin le chokchur gepadang losan tempe drume sasomgi drove munsela takto ne gyur chi sashi pöke chukshi meto tram rirab lingshi nide gempadi Sangye Shindu Mikte Ulwarki Drogu Namda Shingla Chöpara Sho Yedam Guru Ratna Mandrala Kamniryata Yami Kewa Kundu Yanda Lamada Dralme Chöki Pela Longche Ching Sadan Lamge Yönte Arabzone Dorje change kopa nyurtobe sho Chancho simcho rinpoche make panama ke gyurchi kepa nyampara me payang kongne konto pelware sho. May the precious body-mind which has not yet born arise and grow, which has born have no decline and increase forevermore. Nimo dele tsendele nime kuyan delek shin Ninsen takto delek pe kuncho sumke chingi lop Kuncho sumke ngodrubut sol Kuncho sumke trashisho. At dawn or dusk, at night or midday, may the three jewels grant us their blessings. May they help us to achieve all realizations and sprinkle the path of our lives with various signs of auspiciousness. All'alba o al tramonto, di notte o durante il giorno, possano i tre gioielli concederci le loro benedizioni, possano aiutarci ad ottenere tutte le realizzazioni e cospargere il sentiero della nostra vita con molti segni di buon auspicio. Oma hun temba lame sangye rinpoche, kyoba lame tamche rinpoche, tremba lame gendurim, kyamne kuncho sumla chepa bu locho sampo pagyu trashi pa tuche tempe trinle ya pegye drolo zambe zebra che panden lame shela chepa bu. Oma hum, om ah. Buon appetito. Grazie a tutti.